Good morning, one and all. Welcome to the Tash and Bex Flex.
Good morning.
Welcome if you're watching on Truth Pills, on Devon Advocate and Investigate.
Ooh, nearly got it wrong.
I know, I often get it wrong. I still want to call us Devon McKenzie friends, but, you know, we're a bit of both, aren't we, really? Anyway, we've got a real corker for you today, haven't we, Tash? We've been excited about this all week. We've been reading.
It's been hard work, hasn't it?
It's been hard work.
Yeah.
But we think we've got something that certainly fills a little gap for me, massive gap.
Yeah,
actually,
very much for you.
in my understanding of the nature of the universe. So, am I going first on this?
Shall I just quickly show you what I found?
Yes.
That led us to
Let's
do it.
start at the very beginning.
Basically,
Yeah.
I'm going to put it up. Just want to also bear in mind that the person's work,
Yes.
who this is. So it's basically a guy called Claudio
Nocelli.
Nocelli. Oh,
Well, I
is it
don't know.
Italian? No,
It looks
Spanish.
Italian. It's Spanish. So how?
Well, we
would
think
this-
he's Spanish.
Nocelli.
Nocelli.
Because a cut is a.
And he has a website and he uses his business and he calls it Nos Confunden, which I think means non-confused
There's a
in Spanish. I think so. Yeah.
guys.
Bit of a doggy thing going on. Yeah, and it's basically his work. He's got books, he's got maps, he's got all sorts of things. So whatever I show you on here, I'm just going to put on very briefly to give you an idea of what we're talking about. But obviously, if you want to look at it further, you'd need to go onto his website and download his maps.
And we
because
encourage
he's done
you,
all the work.
and we encourage you to do that because
Yeah.
we're kind of doing a book review today, really, aren't we?
Yes.
Of his work.
Of
It's
his
work, and you know.
So we both read both books.
Yeah.
And basically, we're going to give you a rough idea of the story, and then our conclusion of the story, aren't we? So very much like an old-fashioned book review, like we were at school.
Yes.
But yeah, so we will put all the links to his stuff underneath anyway.
He's quite young, isn't he? I didn't
Yeah.
realise.
Yeah, and he's obviously Spanish. Well, I assume he's Spanish. And he calls this map the Terra Infinita, which means forever land, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just land that goes on forever again
Yeah.
in Spanish. So I was on some platform, don't remember which one it was, and I came across this map here. And you can see in the centre there's sort of what we know as Earth, and then there's various bits around the outside of it. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. Tried to find more information, couldn't find very much, and then I saw a little bit in the corner that it said Nos Confunden, so I obviously started Googling. No, I didn't Google it, I ducked it.
We
or
don't
whatever I
Google,
did.
we
No,
don't duck go.
I think Brave I used. I braved it,
You braved it.
and it then revealed this beautiful takes a while. This beautiful thing, which actually looks very much like a cell, doesn't it? And
Yeah,
the nuclei.
it
It
does.
looks very much like the cell. So you can download this map in full. I think it's about £11, but it's incredible because you can zoom in to every single bit of this map. I think it magnifies by 150%. And right in the centre, which is interesting, is that map I just showed you. Right in the middle there. So
Which is us.
which is us, yeah. So basically, it was to show you that, and then that's where we'll start, and then we'll move on. So Bex, over to you.
Yeah, so basically, Tash and I had already discussed numerous times the etymology of certain words, such as planet. So the etymology of the word planet means a small part of the sectional plane. So we'd already been discussing the fact that, we're both flat earthers, aren't we, Tash?
Well, I certainly don't think it's a ball
It's not
spinning
a
at
ball.
2,000 miles
for
an
God's
hour.
sake, no.
Utterly
But
ridiculous.
I'd kind of, really since about 2018, I'd realised that, yes, we were more likely to be on a plane. So then you look at the word planet, small section of the small part or section of the plane. And also the etymology of extraterrestrial, when we've been talking about off-worlders and all of this. Just means a being from the extra land.
Extra land, isn't it?
So,
Yeah.
you know, you have to start thinking, well, hang on a minute, that implies that what we call Earth is a little piece of a much bigger plane
place.
with other beings, other lands, blah, blah, blah.
Rather than something out in space that comes
Yeah.
in a little spaceship in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've always, well, we know that the heliocentric model is designed to do several things, I think. Debunk the whole flat Earth idea. It encourages us to look out all the time, up, out, not inside
Not in
us,
here.
spiritually, or literally, not looking down at what we've got here.
It's a big distraction, isn't it?
Massive distraction. It completely it stops anybody from critically thinking as well, because it's probably one of the most laughed at and ridiculed concepts. Whenever someone's trying to insult me, they always go, I bet you're a bloody flat earther.
And of course the Flat Earth Society as well is another group of people who are globes who try and...
Yeah.
So yeah,
so it's always been...
It's very battered, isn't it?
Very battered. But we have to acknowledge that all the maps before about 1950 were flat Earth.
Yeah, and the same with when you look at the World Health Organization. I think the aviation one.
Yeah.
They all use a
flat
version
Earth.
of a flat Earth.
Yeah. So it was only very recently that we've had maps that present the Earth as a globe, and also the word NASA. It's a narrative that I think is full of bollocks personally, but it means to deceive, and we can't remember which language, whether it's Hebrew or something, but the word NASA
means... like
the
deceiver or something,
the deceiver,
and the tongue is meant to be like the N, it looks like a tongue of a snake, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's all very satanic in symbolism. So I think the conclusion that we'd already come to was that we were probably on a huge plane with a firmament over that keeps us inside, and therefore my conclusion is that these extraterrestrials are actually on this same plane with us, because in this plane, from a Woah point of view, we have the 3D, the 4D and the 5D all accessible within these planes, but we're held by our firmament, where they're trying very hard to keep us in the third, aren't they? And we'd also discussed the fact that there were bloodlines. We know about the 13 families, the matrix, the illusion, keeping that alive is their job. But we'd also decided, hadn't we, Tash, that there was something probably behind that, above them, that's completely unseen.
And not just more families, because we know there's more families behind those families and what have you, but we mean something
else,
different.
Something different. And we knew that whatever it was, they just didn't want us to ever know what that was, because if it's unseen, if it's hidden, we can't possibly take it to task or take it down. So we'd already decided that was probably the way of the universe.
Kind of what we were saying with the fallen angels a bit, weren't we?
Yeah.
That perhaps, this strange skull thing that was going on, that perhaps it was something different.
So Tash finding these maps and then finding this chap in his books, to me, is like this missing piece. And secrecy's always been their power. So my conclusion is, because this is presented as fiction, isn't it, Tash?
I'm not sure. I think it's written not as fiction, but perhaps it's logged or listed as fiction to stop it being taken down. Maybe.
Because it would be censored, do you think, if it was put
maybe,
forward
yeah, because actually it doesn't say anywhere in the books that it
it's
is fiction. No, it's written...
But it's listed as fiction when you're buying
maybe.
it. Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
But whether it's fiction or not...
It's a story.
It's a story, yeah. But it offers a framework which helps us and our perception of the universe to shift perspective, because it's really important, I think. We've been given all these models, they've been rammed down our throats, anything outside of that you're ridiculed. Actually, we need to change our perspective. We need to look at these things, because if we're being forced to accept something, it tells me that we're being forced because it's what they want us to believe rather than what's really there.
Yeah, and I just think everyone needs to just read the story, listen to this story, and then make their own judgment from it.
Yeah, make your own judgment.
Make your own judgment.
So that's kind of a run up to where me and Tash were at before we came across this document. Should I talk about that bit?
Yes, so because people are going to say, where's
the source?
Where's the source?
Okay, so the source, what happened was, between 2016 and 2020, they were contacted. It's still quite vague.
Very vague, yeah. And it's all translated as well from the other thing that we've had trouble with. It's
the translation.
The translation. So yes, we've got it in English, but it's been done literally. It's
been done in Google Translate.
At times, quite difficult for us to get
to decipher.
Yeah.
It's quite clunkily translated.
It is.
But they were contacted by somebody, which I assume is this person.
Yeah.
But we think it was probably a lady called Helen Morris. We'll talk about her in a little bit more. And she was getting stuff from an unusual internet connection, is the way that it's been put.
Yes, that's how they put it, yeah.
But I think it's somebody who's outside of the firmament.
Yeah.
And we know who that...
And we'll talk about her,
we'll
won't
talk
we?
about her as well. So they got contacted, and this information was starting to be dripped through to them.
And when was this, in like 2016?
It started in 2016, but it went on for 4 years, right up to 2020. And at first they thought, well, this is really way out, this is too much, this is too out there. But they've had lots of synchronous events in that 4 years, and they found that the story could be backed up by certain military and certain sort of world leaders or political leaders
and
that backed it up. And also there are existing maps that concur with these maps. And this has all been hidden from us. So, you know, I guess at first this guy might have thought, well, this is way out there, this must be nonsense. But then I know what it's like when you have synchronous events that just keep backing up. No. And you're like, okay, I have to look at this. So, and also that timing, 2016 to 2020, you know, I had a big shift 2015 to 2016.
that's when you started doing the more portal stuff.
Yeah, I started to close portals and work with portals and these dark things that I removed from people. So I had kind of a shift at that time. I think it's been quite a poignant lead up to what happened in 2020. So that's where the sources come from. They come from this woman.
And also from this woman. So she's from lands on the other side of our firmament, isn't she?
She was born outside of our firmament. She was born in... I've forgotten the name of the land.
The Ancestral Lands.
The Ancestral Lands. How could I forget that?
Well, the Ancestral Republic.
It's the Republic.
It's the proper name.
So the characters in the actual story are a navigator called William Morris and an explorer called Richard Byrd. And we verified that they are real people that existed. American, yeah. But Shiki, she is the person that lives.
She had a book, didn't she?
Yeah.
And her book is where a lot of this information has come from, and I believe that she gave that book
to Helen.
To William, I think.
Oh, to William.
Initially, and then it got passed through, yeah.
To Helen, because William's obviously now dead.
Yeah.
Obviously we can't verify Shiki's existence. She is a giant human. She's a cross between a hybrid. But Helen, she's still alive, isn't she?
Yes, she must be if she was given this information, unless she's doing it from a different dimension.
And she's the daughter of William, the
of William
navigator.
Morris,
She was born outside of the firmament, 800 kilometres south of us. And she calls all of the planets circle environments because they're all under domes on this plane. We're one, and then there's 178.
So there's basically a Great Dome.
Yeah.
Or you can call it the end of the known. Because beyond the Great Dome, they don't know. Nobody's ever passed the Great Dome. And then underneath the Great Dome, you've got 178 worlds of circle environments. But within that, you've also got lots of independent lands that are domeless as well, which they travel to. So there's a lot more lands, but there are 178 circle worlds.
And we're one of those 178.
And we're one of those, yeah. And basically, several domes can exist with different climates and civilizations because you've got a dome within a dome as well. So you can have different races, different climates, and different technology, and just completely different worlds, basically.
Separate them.
Completely different worlds.
Using the domes.
And basically, penetrating the domes it isn't easy, and only advanced technology will advance to us at this time. I think we probably had that technology in the past. But humans as we are now, it's considered advanced.
Yeah.
And basically, they colonized all different races under these domes if they felt necessary, but other races were just explored and sort of left as independent lands, depending on what was found under these firmaments. So it's almost impossible to cross over by the air. So flying isn't possible. It can be done by land. However, the preferred method is water, so it's going through the little passages.
Well, under the water?
No,
just on top.
Yeah, just on top of the water in boats. So you can go to the inner and the outer worlds. It's a bit like a cell membrane.
Osmosis.
Put it here. Yeah, so basically the cell can have a barrier, can't it?
Yeah.
But at certain times you can penetrate that barrier.
Yeah.
So I think it's very similar to that.
Yeah, so all the conditions might have to be perfect.
Yes.
And it's almost like there's an opening or
there's
something.
An opening, it's something happens, yeah.
I mean, we know that they don't want us down in the south, the Antarctic, don't we? Antarctica, don't we? So perhaps that's where things can open up.
Yeah, open up. I think there's one at the south and one at the north.
Yes.
There's 2 passages.
Yeah.
Some domes can be via the air, but not by aeroplanes, but by what we'd know as spaceships, I suppose, like by other ships, but airships. I suppose that's the proper word, isn't it, for them?
Airships, yeah.
But they quite often have consequences doing it that way. It's not a safe way to go through the dome. I think there's a lot of...
Well, I've said to you, haven't I, about the ships. I say, they're really small when I see them here, because it's such a dense atmosphere that it squishes them.
They shrink down like, yeah.
Yeah, because they're actually massive. And then when I see them here, they're like, I don't know, they're like tight.
Small and tight, because the atmosphere is different.
Yeah.
And then there are some portals as well, which were found in several circle environments, sometimes connecting several worlds. And the manipulation of these caused big problems, with some beings disappearing, almost like they disintegrated. They could never find them again.
If we can close portals and open portals, I wonder whether they can be corrupted. Okay, there's a portal and they go, oh my God, people are getting out from that one, and then close it.
And you can find certain races have the power to do the portals and others don't as well. So you've got like different levels of people who can penetrate it and where they're from. And the only domes not penetrated out of the 178 domes are the big one, like I said, on the outside.
Yeah, the big
and
massive
the
one.
other one is the celestial lands, which we will talk about quite a lot because that's really important, isn't it? The celestial lands. And the reason that there is some importance there is it has a very strong relationship with humans and the source of life, which is considered the soul, basically.
And humans are very special, aren't they? Because we have this essence.
We have something
in our souls, which means that we can, when we pass away, we can exist outside of the Great Dome with Source. So it's almost like that, because we've always known, I have, that there's something special about human beings. That's why we've been meddled around with, and there's something amazing about our DNA, and now I think it's this energy source that comes from outside of the Great Dome, that we're one of the only species that have it within us.
Yeah, I mean, they don't know if anyone's made it out to the Great Dome, but they know the celestial worlds has only ever been penetrated by the human soul. Not our body does still disintegrate, but our souls can travel into it.
So in other words, we can be without a body.
Yes, exactly that.
And still be in existence, which the others can't.
So what we thought we'd do is talk about, we've just picked out a few.
There's one thing we haven't said, and we haven't said the word of who these people are that invade and colonise and everything.
The Custodians.
The
Custodians are a race.
Yes.
So basically what we thought we'd do is pick out, so I'm going to do our world and our lands, and then you're going to do the Custodians after that. I think you're doing Custodians.
Yes.
Is that right? And then we're going to take in turns with just some of the more common planet names that we might have heard of, or races that we might have heard of.
Yes.
Which might make it sort of
a little bit more relatable.
Make a bit more sense. So our world. So we're right at the centre of the Terra Infinita, the infinitive land. And we are the known lands. So that's
what they call us.
Yeah, that's who we are. We're the known lands. And basically, there's an ice wall and a dome over that, and there's a passage to the south called the Barrington or the Morris Strait, and there's a portal to the north called the Dyatlov portal. Dyatlov portal. So that's the two ways you can get through. And then outside there's more lands and oceans. You've got Asgard, which I think wasn't that in a fantasy thing? Those people that were blue, didn't they live from Asgard? I mean, I don't watch telly. With the pokey out ears.
You mean the what was it called?
You know what I mean.
It was in the cinema.
Yeah, and they had pointy ears and they were blue. I'm pretty sure they lived in Asgard.
Oh God, what was that film called?
You'll remember it in a minute when we remember it. So Asgard is basically
Avatar.
Yeah. Yes. So Asgard is basically to the north. Lost my thing else to the north. And then you've got the ancient lands of the giants of Anak, and which is sort of here, like Never Eat, Shredded, south west. And then you've got the Ancestral Republic kind of here, and then you've got Never Eat northeast. You've got the moving lands of Thorth, which I think are giants, and I believe that also Anak are giants. And then in the middle with the Ancestral Republic is our ancestors, humans who have escaped past resets and managed to exist outside of the dome.
And the giants, we've got quite a good rapport with them, haven't we?
Yes.
They've come in and helped us out a number of times, and that explains the Tartarians.
Yes, I've got a big bit on the Tartarians.
Yeah, so it kind of, the information links in with other stuff, that we found.
Links it all in.
Yeah.
And then there's another wall or a mountain with a dome, and outside of that one, you've basically got Lumera and Atlantis. Now, I've heard that. Yeah, they've
Atlantis.
been spoken about a lot, haven't they?
Yes, always, yeah.
And to the east of them, you've got the Mermaid Lands. And then to the southwest of these, there was another passage called Bird's Strait. And that penetrates the ice walls of Mars. And that's where...
So we can go directly, if you use that passage, you'd leave here and go to Mars.
And that was obviously Richard Byrd, because it's called the Bird Strait.
Yeah,
so Richard Byrd did go to Mars at some point.
Yeah.
So he must have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically the Ancestral Republic, there are human ancestors who escaped past resets, and basically they'd resettled. And basically, let's have a look. So basically what they were saying, these people, is that when they reset or reboot, they manipulate the environment most of the time in the known lands, and then they kill everything bar babies up to 7 months, basically. And then they can start the process again, and basically the custodians can give those babies that are 9 months old, 7 months old, whatever, the past, that they want them to believe.
Yeah.
So then that puts them in their fake.
And that explains why we know that our whole history is a lie. We'd already worked that out.
Yep, definitely. And then right in the centre of our land, right in the middle, there is a place called Hyperborea. Have you heard of that before?
In the middle of our land.
Yes, so where we would think the North Pole is.
It's the hole, isn't it, where the water comes in?
So Hyperborea,
which is what our tides are.
Which is our tides. That has a direct connection to Asgard, basically. So by means of a portal. So you can go from our centre of us up to Asgard, which is obviously directly above the lands up there. So that was a little bit about the known lands. Yeah. And you were going to talk about the custodians.
Yeah, the land of the custodians. So the custodians are the baddies.
They're
baddies. The entity that we felt was probably behind the bloodlines and the families,
they're the controllers.
They control this, where we live, this realm, absolutely. Well,
and
they have
all
done.
of them and the Anunnakis control all of it, don't they?
Yeah, and
all of the domes.
Well, they're friends of the Anunnaki, aren't they? And as I said previously in other vids, the Anunnakis are very, very dark. They're not good. So just that confirmed that again. But yeah, they in their lands, so they are. They've got, there's a collection of sort of. You'd have to see the map, but I just liked the names. They were quite dark. I thought Baal
lands.
The Baal lands. And the Machiavelli Islands. I mean, to be Machiavellian is to be underhanded and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and Terra de Pan, well, there's the god Pan, isn't there?
Yeah.
Who's half goat, half man.
Yeah.
So it's all quite
dark.
And outside of their firmament is the ocean of death. They're surrounded by an ocean.
And that gets very dark, the water there, doesn't it?
It's really dark. I think it's probably one of the very, very deep, because some of the oceans are incredibly deep, aren't they? And apparently have portals in them as well. But they're as a race, the custodians are parasitic. They feed off other races, other colony.
So like fear?
Yeah.
Feed off fear?
Absolutely. They used all their technology and their knowledge they used for warring, to exploit and colonise other lands and other beings. So that's what they do. They're the baddies of our world. Their origin isn't known, but there's a rumour in the giant sort of world that they initially they were kind of all right, and then a race from outside of the big dome came in and merged to create what they are now. So it's almost as if some outside force came in and merged with them, and that is what caused the Custodians. So it's, if you think about the fall from grace, which is in the Bible and stuff like that, you know, we have to look at these archetypal stories, and it does sound to me like they were corrupted in some way themselves. But they always had the advantage because of this crossbreeding with something from outside. They were instantly just superior with their sense of technology, and therefore they were dominant, and they were a negative force. But because they had that advantage of this superiority because of this crossbreeding, they just got out there and they just took over all the colonies and all of the domes that they could. They've only been defeated twice. I think the Venusians beat them, didn't they, once? And who was the other? The Martians, in a kind of weird way, didn't defeat them, but you know, they didn't colonize the Martians.
Get what they wanted,
they didn't get what they wanted.
Yeah.
They are an incredibly vengeful race. They're the only race to attempt to colonize and get into the celestial lands, which are sacred, I feel. They're
I don't think there's
sacred.
any life there, to be honest. I think it's like a big portal or something.
I don't know.
To the outside dome,
But
maybe.
no other race has ever even thought of penetrating that celestial lands. So they do not give a monkey's really what they corrupt. We do have a karmic push and pull with the custodians. Yes. Reason being that our soul, that thing we were talking about, this essence, it comes from those custodial lands originally, and because they want to penetrate those custodial lands, it's almost like there's a personal karmic thing between us and them. We are destined to confront them. We are destined to have this kind of clash almost, because we are originally seeded from there before the custodians were corrupted by their outside force, if you know what I mean. We have battled with them twice before as well. But obviously, we haven't. Now is the big showdown.
Big show. So we don't know what, we had this conversation here, we don't know what this race looks like.
On the mic, sorry.
I'm terrible with the
no,
mic.
there is no talk about how they look. But I feel like, I know that the Anunnaki just look like us.
Little bit,
And I feel like that, very like us. They're shapeshifters.
Yeah.
So either the custodians are shapeshifters or they just take on human form.
Yeah.
Because I feel like reading the other bits, I feel like if there was something different about them, it was flagged up.
We would know.
It said
they wouldn't be able to also colonise us without us realising.
Exactly. So they've got to look like us. I think they look like us.
Got to be able to use our form somehow.
Yeah, they use our form somehow. So we have battled. And as you've said, they do these resets. They've reset here many times, killing everybody, just keeping the babies. They hate us as well. They really hate us. They collude with our world leaders, and these world leaders get special favours and rewards for
betraying
us.
Yeah, betraying their own.
One of which is going to Mars.
They go to Mars, don't they? Which we'll talk about Mars, because you talk about Mars. It's fascinating, isn't it?
But that flagged up in my mind all the people that have disappeared, and we say they faked their death, or they've gone into witness protection. Are they alive or are they dead? A lot of people are waiting for certain people to come back from the dead, and I think, well, they're probably they've all buggered off to Mars.
Mars.
So giants and humans, we've always been common allies against the custodians.
The strongest.
The custodians are carnivores.
They eat meat, don't
they?
They
eat meat, and they love sacrifice. They love suffering. They love human blood.
Sounds a bit familiar, doesn't it?
It does sound familiar. And they feed on what I call loosh, and I don't even know how to spell loosh because my guides give it to me as a word. Yeah. But it's low vibe.
Yeah.
So when I said and banging on for years about keep your vibe high, keep your vibe high, keep your vibe high, because if you go into those fear states, you are feeding them with your loosh, and they love loosh. Sorry. So they are the loosh people, and so that makes sense. That was the missing link for me with the looshies. And also they are masters of climate control. It's their thing. It's their, when you think what's going on for us, the ice walls.
Yeah, we were trying to just work that out, weren't we, the ice walls? So
they create them.
So basically, the firmament would have been there, and the portal would have been to the south, and the passage to the north, and then to make it more inhospitable and difficult and impossible. So they created these ice walls.
Yeah.
So they would have perhaps been mountains.
Yeah, probably.
All been mountain ranges, probably before.
Probably, and much easier to passage through.
Yeah.
But they put this ice wall up. That was after the last reset.
Right.
They always use a surprise element with us as well. When they do a reset, it's always like, boom, out of nowhere, sudden, whatever it is, whether it's natural disasters or whether it's like the one they're trying to do now. Nobody saw what happened in 2020. Nobody really saw that coming. It was boom. We have escaped, in previous resets. Those humans have managed to get to places like Atlantis and Lemuria.
I can never say it.
Whatever it is.
Lemuria.
Yeah. Via portals or through the walls.
Or following the giants. Yes. I think when the giants
have helped us massively, yeah. And also there's a portal that goes directly to Venus. So a lot of the Venusians, a lot of the humans that escaped have lived with the Venusians because the Venusians have defeated the Custodians. And I'll talk about Land of Venus and the Venusians in a minute.
Oh, so I can never pronounce that properly. Anunnaki.
Anunnaki.
It's a Nah.
Think about Narki.
Let me just write. I'm gonna have to
think about Nark. People have got the Nark.
That's what I'm gonna write next to it. Nark.
They're Narky bastards. The Anunnaki.
Nark. Does it come from narcissist Narky?
Well, I think it should be.
So the Anunnaki lands.
That's it.
They're basically southeast of our lands. Of the known lands.
Yeah.
So, as we sort of discussed briefly, they are very much in cahoots with the Custodians. They are kind of quite similar. They are a parasitic race, the same, and they like to colonise places. And they were the ones that sort of manipulated and controlled the children of the children year after year after year with these resets, if you like. They had that kind of yearning to do that. They're very hostile, very power hungry, and they are, which is interesting, creators of all of the pyramids in the known lands and any lands that they visit.
Yeah, that surprised me. I mean, we've always sort of felt the pyramids, how were they built, haven't we? We've gone, oh my God, it must have been outside help. But I always thought it was a good race rather than Anunnaki.
Well, what they did is part of the reason they did it was to let other races know that when they came to those lands that there were pyramids there.
So, in other words,
they'd have known that, yeah.
So it's a bit like putting a flag in.
So it's basically their way of saying we're here.
Oh.
So it's basically making sure that people knew that they'd already been there. They're actually known as the strongest race within the Great Dome, and they have really, really advanced technology, the highest out there. And they've utilised portals for transportation, giving them more than other races. They seem to be able to travel in these portals a lot easier than others. So they're very tall. They're up to 5 meters, and they're not reptilian or reptiloid at all. Some people seem to think they are.
Do you think the reptilians are a little bit of a wild card to take us off the...
I got the reptilians. So it's interesting. So we will talk a little bit about them. But yes.
But I wondered whether they were a bit of a red herring.
Yeah, to make us sort of use them instead. Yeah, definitely. And the land of these lands is it's very arid and dry. There's very little vegetation. And the skin colour of this race tends to be more of a yellow-green, and it is dry and scaly, and their eyes are yellow, red or black, and they completely lack all empathy.
Yeah.
And they just love oppression. They just love to oppress everything that they come across. So they're very, very, very similar to the Custodians, and they do work in cahoots.
And I believe there's lots of Anunnaki here. Yeah. So
they didn't say anything in the book about shape-shifting. But it hasn't done in the books at all about any shape-shifting, so that might just be... There's more books to be written, so there's probably a lot more literature to come anyway.
I mean,
but at this point, I don't know about it.
I believe that Anunnaki shapeshift. I mean, this has been interesting for me because I've met some of these beings on my journeys, and now I'm actually able to go, that was a so-and-so. Oh, that was one from there, because...
Kind of all making sense all of a sudden.
It's massively made sense to me.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, it's been millions of pennies dropping...
Yeah.
in a big clatter of like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
Shall I quickly do
Yeah,
Venus?
it's your now. Yeah, we've got enough time, haven't we?
Yeah, there's not a lot on Venus as a planet other than it's got. I just like the names of the countries and land masses. They were like Ruth, Isabella, Gregory, and then there's Kunitz.
Oh, Kunitz. Cunt. Oh no, not quite. Kunitz. And that is, I just wrote it down, I meant to tell you, but so that's north of Earth, so people can visualise where it is. So
right.
Venus is...
So it's north of us.
Yeah.
What I found really interesting about Venus, they are the only people that have really defeated the Custodians and the Anunnaki. They have no ice walls. They don't have any ice walls. It's all under... Mountain. Yeah, it's all...
And look how close they are to the celestial
lands. And very, very close to the celestial lands.
Are they a protection of
I
this?
feel that they are.
This looks like it goes into it?
I think that's a water.
Water, and it looks, yeah.
So they, although they would never go into the celestial lands because the Venusians are a very kind of... Respectful race. So they're the only ones that weren't defeated by the Custodians, and they were never colonised. We do have links with them because they've come. I think that we and the Venusians and us have had quite a good rapport in the past.
Oh, okay.
But that's from my
your stuff.
My Woah. I didn't read it in there.
Did they describe what they look like at all?
Didn't mention how they look. But
they're very spiritual.
Yes, they're very spiritual.
All their technology is used exclusively for spiritual development and to benefit on their path of ascending or transcending internally. So they didn't use it for mass destruction or weapons of anything. So they're a nice race.
Yeah, and I've got that book, haven't I? Venus Speaks, that we looked at last week. It's apparently written by a Venusian.
Yes, because it's got a little bit of the signatures written in a different
language.
Different language, isn't it?
I think they speak like language, but
like a squeaky musical sound. Do you think it is?
Well, I heard that weird thing.
So is it?
It's very very musical. It sounded like that. Couldn't understand what they were saying, but I was like...
So you had that in one of your...
No, I had that when I was sitting on the toilet. I was completely conscious and not meditating or anything, not journeying. I was just sat on the loo having a wee. And I was like, what the hell? And it went on and on and on and on. It didn't stop.
When you had the...
Yeah, and then I got...
A vision after?
I got pinned to the bed, didn't I, after that?
That's right, and then you saw the lights.
Yeah. That's another story, though.
That's another story.
Yeah. But, I mean, I just think, to me, all of this has really helped me to make sense of things that have happened to me.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
Yes, it is. But looking at the time... Anyway, the Venusians are a lovely race.
Yes.
And I do think they're taller than us. I think most of the races are taller than us. We seem to be the little short asses of the universe, don't we?
Maybe the Martians on Mars. I've got a feeling that because they've always... Whenever they do a Martian, they always make them quite small,
Martians,
don't they?
I think the Martians were a little bit smaller.
Yeah, they might
be. But
be.
also, we have been poisoned. One of the Custodians' jobs is to poison us
And they poisoned our environment
for
thousands of years.
Thousands of years, yeah. Our air, our water... And that would keep us small and sick. We're supposed to live for a lot longer than we do.
Well, the people that live on the other side of the dome in the ancestral lands live 3 times longer than us. So 240 is the average age.
And when you look back at biblical stories, they talk about people living that long. So it all kind of makes sense.
So they are killing us. It seems like 80 years is a long time to live, but I think it takes 80 years to kill us on average to kill a human.
Yeah, because humans actually have a very, very, very strong immune system. So... Them nasty Custodians.
So that word custodian, so as we've got a little bit of time on the end there, you feel that, or you were told, or you had a whatever, that it's very important that the word...
Yeah, we must start using it. We must start using it. This realm that we live in is being dominated by... did you just read that?
I did.
By the Custodians.
I just read one of Rebecca's messages. Very nice. Made me smile.
At least it was a nice one, not you bloody bitch.
Or rude.
Or rude. If it had been rude, that would have been very embarrassing. But yes, basically, they've been doing this to us for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That reset us when they feel like it, keep us sick, brainwashed, completely manipulated. So we have to throw off the Custodians. We have to call them out. and we have to go, no.
So do we think these 13 families are custodians? Or not the 13 families, the people behind it all?
I think they're Anunnaki, yeah, and I think they were.
And custodians as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not human. I've said that to you before, that I don't think a lot of people that are in the, you know, you look at the shape of Klaus Schwab's head for a start. He's got a funny little knobble.
Coney, isn't it?
He's got a knobble here, and it's really big at the back.
So, and that's what the Anunnaki, they have that.
Anunnaki have the big head at the back.
Yes, and that's the Rothschilds, and they've got that funny shaped head, haven't they?
Yeah.
Ew. Right, we
anyway,
shall come back with part 2.
We'll be back with part 2. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I hope it's kind of like, at least if people are a bit like, whoa, that's confusing, hopefully it's drawn them in, because we'll tell
put the
story.
links. Yeah, we'll tell the story. The next part, we'll finish talking about the planets that we know of.
So the guy.
Yeah, and then...
So, it's going to be back to front though, isn't it?
No, it comes out when it's... Yeah.
So that's one of the books there. So that was the story told by the woman who was born in the lands behind the ice walls.
Yep.
And then this one, I can actually read mirror
back
better.
To front.
It's easier.
Perhaps that's the key, Tash.
There we go. And then, if I do that, because I'm really dyslexic, I'm like, ooh. And this one is The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls. So these are his 2 books. Now, he does them in PDF, I think for about £7.99. And like we said, they are translated. They are a bit clunky because his original ones are written in Spanish. He also does hoodies and duvets.
Ooh.
Imagine
I quite like
a duvet, yeah.
I would quite like
He does like hoodies, duvets. He does the map, which I said before. He does
he's got merch on there, but we want to encourage you to buy the books and check out.
Buy the books and definitely buy the map, because I find the map fascinating.
Yeah.
When we pinch it in and you can just see it all.
Yeah.
It's really well done. He's very...
And it makes perfect sense to me anyway.
Anyway.
All right, guys, we'll be back.
Bye.
See you later.